Alright, so something completely different here I'm trying on the farm. These are our paperbark maples. Now, if anybody's familiar with these trees, they're absolutely beautiful. They get this really cool, like, skin almost on the outside, hence the name the paperbark. And it just comes off and it almost looks like little rolls of cinnamon. And the trunks have this really pretty red color. In the fall, they just get fire red, and they're just beautiful trees. But they're hard to seed, so you can see here we got quite a few seeds that never fell from last year. And I've heard that they're really hard to grow from seed. So the other thing I've heard about is air layering. So I'm going to give that a try, where you're actually creating another tree, an exact replica from an existing limb. So I've never done this before, but I'm starting it right here. So what I've done is I've come and just scratched the surface of the trunk all the way around here, so all the bark is off. And then I'm just going to take peat moss, and then I'm going to take this little piece of a plastic cup. This was just a like a 2-liter bottle, just cut it down. So I'm going to wrap this around the trunk. I'm going to pack it with peat moss, and then I'm going to wrap it with duct tape just to kind of hold it together, and then wrap the whole thing in foil so it stays dark and shady. So from what I hear, that will actually make the tree think that it's dying here, so it will re-root. Now I picked a piece of this tree here, like this limb is probably about 2 feet, 2.5 feet tall. Has some really good character to it. It's just starting to kind of get some little buds. You can kind of see here, just starting to bud out a little bit. So I'm hoping it'll grow some roots. I love the character of the tree it's coming off of. So we're gonna give this a whirl. I've never done it. We got quite a few trees here, so I want to go through and pick some with different character. And hopefully by the end of the summer, I'll have some trees that I can graft off and we can get them in planter boxes. So let's go ahead and go with this, and then I'll do a video here in a couple months and see how it works. Okay, so here's our first one. I'm getting ready to wrap it in foil. So all I've done is filled it with peat moss. I put it around the spot that I had actually cut down there, so it's all nice and exposed. And I kind of put it right here towards the middle of it so that the roots can kind of grow all the way around. Now what I'm going to do is I've been reading that some guys use tin foil, some guys use a piece of string to kind of keep this in place. I'm just going to go ahead and put the tin foil on it, and then I'm using this little limb right here actually to kind of hold it in place. And I'll come out here and keep checking on it and see how it goes. Once I get this wrapped in foil, I'll come back and water it, make sure the water goes back through. And if this peat moss will condense as it gets wet, I'm going to go ahead and just top it back off, make sure this is nice and wet. So that's the first one. I'm going to go ahead and go get started. I'm hoping to get about a dozen out today. All right, so here's our paperbark maple tree grove. But as you can see, these leaves have really just started coming in over here in the past couple of weeks. I wanted to kind of go through and show what I'm talking about, how some of these trees are actually getting starved out by some of the other ones just because they're so tightly close together. So instead of just cutting down these trees and losing them, I'm going to attempt to propagate every single limb off of every tree that looks like it might not make it this year. So that way, hopefully, even if I only get 50% of the limbs to take, it's better than losing the whole tree in general. So I'll go through here. I'm going to take a couple walk, kind of show some of them where they're starving other ones out. I do have some of these propagations started. I don't want to open them up yet. It's only been a couple of weeks. But just kind of a experiment here around the farm, but show you what I'm talking about with some of these other trees starving them. So let me walk inside here and show you some of the trees. So here you can see some of the ones that I'm trying to propagate on some of these limbs just to see if it's going to work. Got 2 in this tree. I've got a couple here. I think all throughout the whole grove here, I spread out about a half a dozen. Now I'm pretty excited because it still looks like the limbs up above the ones that I'm propagating are still getting nice buds, still getting some good growth. So I'm really hoping that none of the limbs are dying, which is really making me feel pretty happy. So we're going to leave these on here for another 4 weeks. There's only been 2. And then I'm going to check them here at about the end of the 4 weeks to see if I'm getting any roots inside there or not. I'm really hoping for the best. If it is, then I'm going to get serious with them here. I'm going to go through, and all of these trees, like last year, I came through and I cut everything about 2 feet up off the ground. So it would just make it a little easier as you're kind of down here lower. Easier to mow. With all these limbs before, they were just right off the ground, and it would take me almost an hour just to weed whack in between here because I couldn't get through here through the mower. Now what I was really amazed with is when I cut all these trees and moved them all up, they just exploded last year. I mean, the growth of these trees was unreal. So I was really excited with how that turned out. But what I want to do, like say with this one here, instead of just chopping all of these little limbs off, I'm actually going to try to replant every one of those. Now these are all going to be soft limbs, so they're all this year's growth. I'm going to give them about another 2 weeks or so to starting to harden just a little bit, and then I'm going to try to propagate every single one of these lower limbs. Again, I'm going to cut all the limbs up to about 2.5–3 feet up off the base of these trees. So every one of them all along here even if I only get 50% growth, heck, even if I only get 10% growth, it's still better than just letting these go and just throwing them away. These trees are just absolutely gorgeous, and we really love them. I want to plant them all over the property, and I'd like to have some that I could try to sell. So this is going to be kind of a fun experiment. I've never done anything like this. I've never been a gardener. I'm more of a mechanic, so this is something completely out of my realm. I was actually really blown away of how much actually goes into growing trees and going through propagating and just everything that it takes to grow a tree. It's actually quite amazing. You get a whole different respect for arborists when you actually start doing some studying. So let's go look through some of these trees, and you can see what I'm talking about, how they're getting starved out. So if we come back here on the back side, even like some of these trees, like this one here in the middle, if you really look at the limbs, the only place there's green growth is up here about the 8-foot mark. But if you come down here about 6 feet, there is nothing in here. And all these limbs are starting to die. There's nothing. There's hardly any leaves. So these trees are really just starving each other out. Now we do have a couple of trees in here that are actually starting to just kind of die out altogether. So such as this little one here. This little one, you can tell, not very much growth. It's a lot smaller. It still has some good green on it, but a lot of these limbs are just dying. So this is one of those trees that I'd probably cut out here this year. But I'm looking at this, and I can probably make 100 little clippings off of this. And even if only 10%, now I just turned, it'll take years obviously for it to grow. But now I've got 10 trees that I can replace for this one that I've cut. And there's a couple other little tiny ones. Again, same thing like this little tiny one here. You've got this tree stuck right here in the middle, and all these limbs are dead, everything. There's only about a dozen little green leaves just on the very tips of some of these branches. So I don't want to lose this whole tree. So if I can propagate anything off of it, it's really a win for me. So I'm going to go through, and probably in the next week or so, I'm going to go ahead and start making a propagation box, and I'm going to start going through here. But even like this tree, so this is a really nice big, this tree is probably 12 to 14 feet tall. As you can see inside here in this grove, it's so thick, there is not a single piece of green anywhere on the whole center of this tree. Now this tree has some beautiful character. It really is just kind of sprouting all over the place, but it only has brush up at the very top. So if I can propagate some of these other limbs that are still alive, because like this limb here, this limb's probably 5 or 6 feet tall, but if you look right here, it only has green buds right here where it can get to the sun. Well, I'm hoping that since it's got good life at the top, these limbs in here are still alive, so I can actually save some of these other little limbs off of here. So all these limbs that are shooting off here, I can try propagating them. And again, even if I only get 10%, man, that's a win for me, because then I can make 5 or 6 trees out of this one limb and hopefully get some more growth and kind of spread these out. So as I do lose some of these trees, because unfortunately I'm just going to end up losing some, there's nothing I can do about it, then I can at least have something to replace them with here over the next couple of years. So you see like these ones, like this one, which is standing out standalone, you can see it's just thick brush from top to bottom. Whereas all the rest of these, they're nothing, and then the brush is only at the top of them. So there's another prime example. Nothing on the bottom 8 feet of this tree, and then only plumage right here at the top. So lots of work, lots of experimenting. It's gonna be fun. Again, find things you've never done, have fun, try them. What's the worst that can happen? Everything fails, at least you got to try. So I'll come back in a few more weeks. We'll check some of these ones that I've already been air layering here. Like I said, I got about a half a dozen. Praying for roots, and if it does, then I'm just gonna go crazy through here. So next video will be here in a couple of weeks.